Well, welcome to another great episode of the InEvent webinar series, Beyond Carbon Reduction, a holistic approach to sustainable events. My name is Paul Zickert. I'll be your host today. I'm a sales manager here at InEvent, and I couldn't be more excited to really be here and talk about this great topic. First, some housekeeping notes. If you do have any questions or answers to our questions, please go ahead and drop them into the questions tab throughout the webinar today. Also, we will be having a few polls, so if you could please participate in those polls, that would be fantastic. Well, let me go ahead and introduce our main speaker today, Benoit Sauvage. Benoit is the founder and CEO of Connect DMC, a leading destination management company in the Dominican Republic and Mexico, as well as founder and CEO of Hospitality Sustainability Revolution, a leading consulting firm for hospitality stakeholders worldwide. Benoit, welcome. Very happy to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Paul, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depend where you all are in the world right now. I'm very excited to be here today and to be able to discuss with you guys on such a timely and interesting topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Benoit, I love your background, by the way. It reminds me of hanging out on the beach. I would love to be on the beach right now, right?
We all
That's
do,
great.
we all do.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's get to it. We're going to go ahead and put up our first poll question just so we can kind of get a sense to see who's actually in our audience today. So, the first poll question we're going to ask is, are you a supplier or a buyer? So, if we could bring that one up, that would be great in the poll section. We'll give you guys a couple seconds to answer that one. All right. So as you guys go through that, all right, Benoit, let's level set the stage here, and really just to make sure people really understand what sustainability really is, right? It seems like sometimes a very broad word, and not
Yeah,
everyone that really understands it. And so I think this will be a really good time to kind of level set before we get into the other topics of really what the definition of sustainability is.
definitely, Paul. Well, an academic definition of sustainability is an enduring and balanced approach to social progress, environment responsibility, and economic activity. Now, my favorite definition of sustainability is a set of processes, standards, and actions that helps all type of lives to thrive and flourish on Earth. Consequently, for our industry, I would say the three pillars are people, planet, and profit. Very important to keep that in mind. If we don't have people on Earth, definitively no sustainability, no planet. If we don't have a planet, there's nothing we can live on, nothing we can do, and there's no plan B, as the French president said some years ago. But there's a very interesting component and very important component is the profit, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later on.
Yeah, yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, it's funny when we talk about this, the first thing that's always coming to my mind is sustainability, and I think about the earth and how we're
The
treating it, right?
environment, yeah.
Yeah, environment, right? And it's and that's the first and only thing that ever came up. But as I was talking with you and getting ready for this webinar, I was like, wow, I didn't realize there's actually a whole economic part of this whole thing, right?
Dimension,
And making
definitely.
sure local economies and businesses and everything else thrive. So I think that's a very interesting part of our discussion. Well, let's get to the first question. As someone has really lived and worked in three continents over the years, what inspired you to advocate for kind of a more holistic approach to sustainable events beyond just carbon reduction?
Well, from a very young age, I was fascinated by the planet and also by space exploration, but that's a whole complete different subject. But one and another are pretty much linked, so it's very interesting. But I really saw for the last 40 years dramatic changes on both our environment and on our society. Very simple reason. One day coming back from work, a long day at work, I came home and I saw the beautiful faces, smiling faces of my two boys on the porch of the house. And I just decided, it just clicked. And I decided that, I really needed to be part of the solution and not the problem anymore. But there's some figures that really hit me. And if you put it into perspective, Earth is 4.6 billion years. Now, if we scale it down to 46 years, humans have been around for only 4 hours. The Industrial Revolution started 1 minute ago. In that 1 minute, we have destroyed 50% of the world's forest. We have wiped out 83% of the wild mammals, 80% of the marine mammals.
Hmm.
There's currently 1 million plants and animal species that are at risk of extinctions. And when I went through those figures, I said, okay, this is something that must be done. And we really need to start digging into it and finding solutions. So I just educated myself basically for the last 7 8 years. And I studied as much as I could on that topic because I really have a passion for it. And I started giving webinars and speaking on sustainability, but trying to englobe not only carbon neutral event, which is a big trend. It's something very important, something that we need to look into. We need to have a carbon neutral society by 2020, 2050, sorry. But there's many more and much more than that again, we'll be discussing during the
Mhm.
little chat that we have, you and I.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for being a part of the solution. Right? I think we hear about all these different things all the time in all sorts of news outlets and even in industry events. We're constantly hearing about this. So appreciate you, finding that light bulb moment and going for it. And I think it's a super important topic to have, and we need more people like you in the industry to talk more about this and how we can kind of continue to expand on it. So the next question is how do you define a truly sustainable event, and what key elements differentiate it from kind of a carbon neutral event?
Well, I think that a truly sustainable event goes beyond just the carbon neutral. Now, first of all, it considers ESG principles. For those that are not acquainted by that, it's
Hmm.
environmental, social, and governance. There you touch absolutely everything that we mentioned a little bit earlier. But also the DEIAB, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belongings. Now, there are different factors that makes an event truly sustainable versus just a carbon neutral event.
Hmm.
First, you need to look at the environmental impact beyond just the carbon emission. So, a truly sustainable event will focus mainly on balancing the carbon, not sorry, the carbon neutral event, only carbon neutral event focuses only on balancing the carbon emissions in order to reach a net zero. This is what we're all trying to do, not only in our industry, but in the world generally. And you do that through offsetting or reducing methods, cutting down on consumptions, using energy more efficiently, and renewable energy. The name of the game of a carbon neutral event is to reduce. Offsetting is not really a long-term solution. It is a current solution, but it's not a long-term solution. So it's to reduce. Now, a truly sustainable event looks at the bigger picture. You also focus on reducing waste, sustainable materials, conserving water, protecting natural habitats, to minimize the overall environmental and communities impact. And the communities are really important there. And again, that's something we'll approach after. You also have as a factor the social impact and governance. So we mentioned briefly governance. It is clear that in the very near future, governments will start applying that into the tax levels. So if you do have a good performance on sustainability, on the overall sustainability, you will surely get tax reductions. Now, if you don't, you will get fines. So the governance factor is really important. But also the ESG principles. You need to include ethical practices into your events. Try to choose suppliers that, for example, follow fair labor standards or align with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. I'm pretty sure that everybody on that call is acquainted with that.
Hmm.
But that's another of the impacts. Um, the economic sustainability is something really key to a truly sustainable event. Now, a truly sustainable event really considers its impact on the local community. You need to hire local staff. You need to source local businesses. That also has a major impact on the transportation of goods. Its transportation of food represents 13% of the emissions of carbon. But you also need to have a more broadened approach. You need to contribute to local development and local businesses. And finally, I would say the legacy. the sustainable legacy is really important. It's not only what we're doing today, it's what will last through time. The long lasting positive effect on the environment and on the communities. Educational initiatives, local project, infrastructures, and improvement. As a company, we started doing that in 2005. We started refurbishing schools and orphanages and building schools and orphanages. I think it's kind of too old to change old guys like us, Paul, but we can still do something with the young generations. And everything, the base is the education. If you can educate people, if you can show them what tourism can bring, what our industry can bring, if they can learn languages, if they can learn a job and work in a hotel or a DMC as we have, it really makes a true long lasting difference in the communities. So I think that's really the major differences between just a purely carbon neutral event where you will try to calculate your scope 1, 2, and 3, reduce them, and eventually offset them, through the whole spectrum of englobing communities, governances, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just throw an example out to you. So I was at an event in Boston one time, and it was actually the HubSpot inbound conference, right, where they have their big inbound conference, and they had all local food vendors, right, out
Mhm.
there for lunch. Would that be like an example of the economic impact because they're bringing in like local vendors there and
Definitely.
skipping in
The,
other?
No, definitely. There you touch two impacts. First, you reduce the carbon emission because you have less transportation.
Yeah.
Second, you also consume local products. And there's something that people do not often realize, but it gives you a sense of place. Sense
Hmm.
of place in our industry is everything. I mean, why eating pizza if you're in Mexico? Eat tacos.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that the sense of place also is super important, but the impact that you leave on the local community, the way those people will also favor from that event because they could come and they could showcase their food first of all, but also they could make money out of that. They could have an income out of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does have a major impact for
That's
definitively.
that's great. Like, see, I went to that event and I had no idea that that was even happening. I was just more worried about what kind of cool local food I was going to eat, right?
Of
But yeah,
course.
that's really interesting. All right, we're going to get to our second poll question. So our second poll question is: how important is sustainability within your organization? And this one, I'm really curious to see what really people put, to see if it really comes to top of mind. So why people fill that one out? So we're going to get to our next question, and that one is what are some common kind of, maybe, I guess, misconceptions about sustainable events? That maybe you've seen or encountered, and how can we address these, or how can we really overcome these?
Yeah, there are common misconceptions or common myth. We can also call them myth now because we've been explaining so much around it and trying to showcase so much around it. But I would say the first one, the one that you hear on and on and on, is that it's too expensive. Now, I agree on one thing. Some sustainable choices might be more expensive upfront, but they will bring lots of savings. If you look at just turning it to a property, a venue, a hotel that does not have all the sustainable, I would say, tools that it could use. When you use uh, 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 when you use better light systems, LED lights everywhere, when you start having low flow circulations for your waters and your toilets, it is an investment. Solar
Hmm.
panels, it is an investment, but then the savings that you will have through that on the long run are absolutely massive. So the fact that it costs more and that it's too expensive, I do not think that it's something real. It really is a myth.
Hmm.
Um, Also, you need to look at another dimension. Sustainable events can attract more sponsors and more participants that care about sustainability. So definitely also boost the attendance of your events, but also it enhance your sponsorship. So it brings and it creates other sources of income.
Hmm.
There's a second one that says that it can have a limited appeal. Now, sustainability is a topic that interests a wide range of people, especially nowadays with the growing awareness of the environmental challenge. So, sustainable events can enhance an event's reputation and draw a more diverse audience and also enhance the business incomes itself. Sometimes we have planners that do say that it's too complicated to organize. And I think it just requires a different approach to planning. And that different approach of planning, most of the time, can make the processes smoother and also help to avoid last minute problems. If you do put sustainability at the get go of your RFPs and you involve every single stakeholders, people
Hmm.
will pay way more attention because they will have to on all
Yeah.
the planning phases and the different component of the program and where it can, we've been doing that for 25 years and we have people on that call that have been doing that for many, many more years. But we always know that something can go wrong. So you can always, and you have to always go and make sure you check and you double check. Sustainability helps you doing that. So it does smooth the project a lot. And the last one I would say that we kind of encounter sometimes is that it's not enough impact.
Hmm.
Now, I would say that every sustainable event does set an example. It educates attendees and it helps push the industry towards more sustainable practices. So, yes, it does have an impact. And I always say any sustainable activity is a good activity. So, just start by including one of the SDGs, I would say, on your events, follow through it, report on it, and then you will see the impact that you're having.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I wish almost sometimes people would or organizers would actually have try to gather more of this data, right, and more of these different ideas that they can kind of include in their events. In order to make this happen, right? Everyone's always looking for something different or unique to do at their event, and I think this is just another aspect for people to do that. Um,
And I
yeah,
would add
go.
that sustainability also goes in bed and in hand with luxury. I do
Hmm.
believe that sustainability is a new definition of luxury. You want to have more genuine, authentic experiences that do involve the local communities. And this is also part of sustainability.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So Benoit, what would be kind of practical steps that event organizers could take literally right now to kind of start making their events more sustainable and kind of more of a holistic manner?
Well, I'll give you just some ideas. I mean, there's many things that can be done, but something that is really practical, that is at reach of your hand, that anybody can do. Start first by issuing an identifications. We talked about the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. They are really well done. They were created by the United Nations, and it's 198 countries that worked around those 17 development goals. They had like 74, 100 and something at the beginning, and then after working, they just narrowed them down to 17. But they are fully complete. And if you follow them all, you will become a very sustainable, definitively vetted sustainable company, and we will become a vetted sustainable industry. So choose one of the SDGs per event and then report on it and see how you grow on that and see how you do better year after. So issue identification is important. Now we talked about that. Engage all stakeholders. You need to put sustainability on your RFPs. When you contact any vendor, any supplier, all the stakeholders, but you also need to try to sense and understand how the final user feels, how the final attendee feels about it. So you need to sense people, you need to survey people before, during, and after.
Hmm.
Everything that is energy conservations, on transportation. Use destinations that have good airlift or that have accessible by train. Maximize public transit if you can. Walking, try to find, if you have a conference, try to find a convention center within the property or a walking distance of the property. That helps you to eliminate the shuttle service that does have a carbon impact. Wherever available, you have hybrid or biofuel vehicles or electrical vehicle. I am not the biggest believer in electrical vehicles, cars, and motor coaches. I am a firm believer of hydrogen, clean hydrogen. I think that's the future of the aviation. That's the future of transportation globally. But we'll see that in the coming years if I was right or not. Now you need to minimize. We talked about that the on-site transportation if you can. Go paperless. Use technology. AI is everywhere. AI is a beautiful tool. We do not understand yet the power of AI and how it can apply to every single part of your planification and execution, but also on every other industry around the globe. But AI is there to help us. Augmented reality also can help. Go paperless, definitively use technology. Everything is being done through apps now, and it's really well done. You have really good tools at your disposition for that. Something really important on the waste management: reduce your water usage. Make sure that everybody carries a refilling bottle of water and you have water stations through the properties. We're seeing that more and more on convention centers, on hotel properties, us as DMCs on tours and so on. We do give a refilling bottle of water to every participant and make sure that they have those stations throughout, their stay, and it helps a lot. And it helps a lot also to reduce the plastic waste in the landfill and in the oceans. I'll just give you a data. 90% of everything that floats in the ocean, 90% is plastic. That plastic stays in the ocean, and we know that we have an extra continent full of plastic that is floating out there.
Hmm.
Then after a couple of years, I think it's anywhere from 3 to way more years, but then it starts disintegrating because of the salt and the water and the sun, and those small particles are eaten by the fishes, and we eat the fishes, so we end up eating our own plastic, and that's crazy. So yeah, definitively no single-use plastic, no single-use plastic utensils or swag bags. And I always say reduce, reuse, and grow. And there's a company, an amazing company in California that produces coffee cups. They're made of recycled paper, and inside you have seeds. So once you're done drinking your coffee, if you throw the cup on the floor, on on the grass, on the ground, it will give you a tree. So these are little examples that are fun to be placed during an event. Now ensure that everything that is food and beverage containers, china and flatwares and linens are reusable or recyclable, or they can also be applied for a donation. For example, when you have a trade show, all the panels that you use when you set up your booth can be given to a theater academy,
Hmm.
and then those guys use that for background decor. So you can always recycle whatever you're using.
Yeah.
um, on the food waste, another data that is really interesting: 40% of the food that is produced around the globe never reaches a plate.
Hmm.
40%. It's more than the food that is needed to feed all the hungry people on earth. And many different, it's due to production, it's due to transportation, it's due to preparation. So you need to work with local charities that can help you put together food donations of leftover foods. And the laws now are way more simpler than they were, so it's very easy to organize, and it does benefit a lot of people that are in need food wise. And also, and again, we talked about communities, but make your events more inclusive and accessible to local communities through CSR. I think that corporate social responsibility has a very big game to play. That's the perfect link between a corporation and the local communities. You go, you do something good for that community. And funny enough, everything we've been doing through all those years, I think that the ones that are the most rewarded are more the end participants than the communities themselves.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I don't know how you feel, Paul, about that, but I'm never happier than giving a gift to somebody than receiving a
All
gift
right.
myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that CSR also is a big part of it. So that's just some general ideas of what you can implement now, but there's many other things you can do, and depends how are you acquainted with sustainability and the level of involvement of your own internal stakeholders. How is your company incorporating sustainability or not?
Okay. Well, very good. Well, with the last a couple minutes that we've got here, we'll try and get to the one question we have too. But what do you think is kind of the future of sustainable events? Coming. What does it look like it's going to be evolving, and what are some of those different trends that everyone should be preparing for?
I would say technology integration. We talked about new technologies, AI and AR definitively will be really present. Local and circular economies involving communities again. Regulation and compliance. Be ready for that. The governments are more and more involved. We will be kind of imposed somehow and everybody will have to really play the game of sustainability. And now the participants' engagement, we're seeing more and more and more interest on sustainability, and the new generations are really involved, and I think it's a really good sign. For sustainability. Now, I think that even the trends for even professionals, or even professionals should prepare for sustainability would become a standard practice. There will be more demand for transparency, and that's very important. You need to stay away from greenwashing. You need to make sure that you report and you improve your impact year after year.
Mm.
We will create more innovative waste solution. Waste management is the key to a more sustainable industry. There will be more demand for education and training, definitively. And this is what we're doing today, thanks to you, Paul.
Mhm.
And there's also a view for true partnership for sustainability, engaging every single stakeholders from the event organizers, the sustainable experts, the local governments, and the nonprofits.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks too for bringing up technology. Right, boy, if we only knew a good technology company that could do those things for them. Sorry, that was my own shameless plug for an event there. All right, we do have one quick question here. It says, "I'm on the lighting design side of events. Usually, I hear that with LED, oops, we solved sustainability. I think we have a lot of room to improve the sustainability of the lighting of shows. I would like to know your thoughts about it. How do we achieve sustainability on the technical department of events?"
Well, you would be certainly more acquainted than me, and sorry, I don't know who's asking the questions, but definitely, if you are in that field, you will know and have more data than me. But definitely, LED lights is the end of the connection, and it is more sustainable, and this has to be used absolutely everywhere. But now, how do you power those LED lights? I think this is where professionals needs to look into it. Can you solar panel power it? Can you power it in different ways that are more sustainable way? If you use coal, definitely we have an issue. So yeah, I think it's more on the powering source that you can have better effects and reductions.
Yeah. Okay. And one last question we'll ask here is, how can event technology such as virtual platforms and apps contribute to sustainability efforts?
Well, in many different ways. First, you can have hybrid meetings where if you have just two people, for example, in Japan for a meeting in Europe, do they need to fly just for two people? Maybe they don't. Maybe they can join virtually and join the rest of the crowd during their own event. But there's more than that. There's the paperless. There's the whole organization on the background. There's the whole surveying people. You need to understand the data of the people that participate in your event. Who are they? How do they see sustainability? Do they understand sustainability? What did they see during the event? Did they see an improvement? Do they want to participate? There's many things that you can ask, and for that, definitely use technology. I think that technology has a major role to play on
Mhm.
on sustainability in the coming years.
Yep. Yep. I would definitely agree with you on that for sure. Well, good. Well, we are a little past time, and first, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Again, I think this is such a great topic, and we probably could spend a whole another hour talking about all of this and all the great ideas. But appreciate everyone being on. Thanks, Benoit, for your knowledge. Right, this is great learning for myself and hopefully for everyone else. And I look forward to honestly seeing you at the next event and talking a little bit more about this. And honestly, even better is your passion for this, and that's huge. I love that you have such a passion for this, and that you are really making an impact in our industry. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much for that as well.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Good. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate you again being on the this version of our InEvent webinar series. We'll see you for the next one, and have a great rest of your week. Take care.